Many Waters by Madeleine L'Engle, Chapter 6, Adnarel and the Quantum Leap. Yolith looked up and saw a circle of strange animals. In the center of the circle stood Mala, looking pale and frightened. Her dark hair covered her breasts. Her body. Yolith started to cry out, to leap up and go to her sister, but it seemed that a firm hand came across her mouth, held her down to the rock. The cobra uncoiled, head spreading, swaying as though to unheard music, then stretched up and up into the loveliness of lavender wings and the amethyst eyes that reflected the starlight. I, Ugliel, call my brothers, Nama! The vulture stretched its naked neck until great black wings and coal-black eyes and a white face were revealed. Rofocale! A shrill drone, a mosquito whine, and then there stood on the desert a Nephil with wings of flaming red and eyes like garnets. Isheth! The crocodile opened its mouth, showing its terrible teeth. It appeared to swallow itself and vomit forth a tall, green-winged, emerald-eyed Nephil. Yolith trembled as she saw the dragon lizard. Eblis! He burst from his scales, beautiful, awe-inspiring. Estelle! The cockroach scuttled a few inches and then burst open, and dust rose and dissipated to reveal another of the Nephilim. Ezequin, the skink. Nagarsanel, the flea. Rugziel, the worm. Rumel, the slug. Rumjal, the red ant. Ertrail, the rat. One by one, the creatures transformed themselves into the Nephilim, with their white skin and brilliant multicolored wings. Ugliel raised his arms. I, Ugliel, in the presence of my brother Nephilim, take to wife Mala, penultimate daughter of Noah and Matred. Mala slowly moved toward him, was folded into the great wings. Yolith fought for breath. Her chest felt constricted, and she gasped for air. Then she saw that there was another circle outside the circle of the Nephilim. The pelican, who daily brought water for her pitcher, stretched himself into the tall, bright personage with silver hair and wings. Alarid! The light seemed to flash against the bronze shell of the scarab beetle, who rose up in a rush of golden wings and burnished skin. Adnarel! A tawny lion with a great ruff of fur about its neck rose on its hind legs and stretched into its sephiric form. Ariel! The golden tips of his wings glimmered in the starlight. A golden snake as large as a cobra, but as bright as the cobra was dark, called out and was transformed. Abasterhon! One by one the seraphim called out their names as they changed form. A golden bat shot up into the air. Abdiel! A ruffled white owl widened its round silver eyes, and the eyes were suddenly the silver eyes in a seraphim's face. The moon-blue wings seemed to touch the sky. Acatriel! A white leopard, swift as the wind, called. Abuzahor! A soft, furred mouse rose crying. Aksha! By the mouse, a tiger moved and stretched. Adabil! A white camel and a giraffe rose moments apart. Admail! Adnakshil! Lastly, a white goose flew skywards, its wings changing to snow white. Aalabil! There seemed a healing in the calling of their names. Although the circle of seraphim was outside that of the Nephilim, when they spread their great wings to the fullest span, the wingtips touched. Likewise, the Nephilim raised their wings, turning so that they faced the seraphim, and the glory of their wings brushed. Brothers, Alarid said, you are still our brothers. Ugliel touched his lavender wings to Alarid's silver ones. No, we have renounced you and all that you stand for. This planet is ours. Its people are ours. We do not know why you stay. Alarid replied firmly, because no matter how loudly you renounce us, we are still brothers, and that can never be changed. For a fragment of a second, Uguil seemed more cobra than Nephil. Yalith choked back a scream. Mala, small and frail, still stood in the center of the circle, protected only by her dark hair. Eblis, shimmering in and out of his dragon lizard form, touched wings with Adnarel. We have made our choice. We have forsworn heaven. Then the earth will never be yours. Adnarel was once more a lion, and with a great roar he galloped away, vanishing into the far horizon. The two circles broke up with a great flurry of brilliant wings. Yalith blinked, and when she opened her eyes, she saw only a tall, lavender-winged Nephil, with his arm tenderly about Mala. Mala, who was no smaller than any other woman of the oasis, but who came barely to Uguil's waist. Yalith sat on the rock, as though frozen into motionless. Uguil's wings spread, wrapped gracefully, protectingly about Mala. Yalith thought she caught a whiff of stone. Then there was a flash, not bright like the unicorns, but a flash of darkness, even darker than the night. And then the desert in front of her was empty. Mala and Uguil were gone. She cried out in fear. "Little one," a gentle voice spoke behind her, "why are you afraid?" She turned to see Eblis, his purple wings lifted so that they seemed to mingle with the night sky. "Mala," she said, "I am afraid for Mala." "Why fear, my precious? Uguil will take care of her, as I will take care of you. There are rumors on the oasis of fearful things to come, the volcano erupting, the mountain falling, earthquakes such as have never been felt before, terrible heavings unlike the silly little tremors you hardly notice." She nodded. "I think my father is afraid, but what can we do? If the volcano is going to erupt, there is no way we can stop it." "No, nor can you run from it, but I will protect you." "How?" "Nephilim have powers. If you will come with me, I will keep you safe." "Come with you? Where?" "I will make a home for you, full of lovely things. You will no longer have to sleep on rough skins still smelling of animals. I will give you food and wine such as you have never tasted. Come, my lovely little jewel, come with me." "When?" she faltered. "Now, tonight." She thought of the two circles, the seraphim and the Nephilim. It was Eblis who was offering her protection, not Adnarel. Mala had gone with Uguil, not with Alarid. "What about my family?" she asked. "What about my twins?" "Only you," Eblis said. "That is as far as my powers extend." She looked up at the stars, shook her head. "Twin Den still needs me." "Love is patient," Eblis said. "I will wait, but I think that in the end you will come to me." His hand soothed her soft burnished hair, and there was pleasure in his touch. She blinked, looked at the brilliant pattern of stars, and it seemed that she could see Sandy bowing to her in her grandfather's tent, could see Denny's holding her hand as the pain of his burns made him cry out. Eblis touched her hair again. "I will wait." Japheth came to visit Denny's, examined him carefully, touching the remaining scabs, gently pulling off a flaking strip of paper-thin skin. "You are better." "Much better." Denny smiled at him, and the smile no longer seemed to crack the burned skin of his face. "I go out at night with Yalith and Holy Bama, and we listen to the stars." "It is good that you can hear the stars." Japheth sat beside Denny's on a pile of skins, putting his hands, stained purple from winemaking, on his brown knees. Denny's looked troubled. "They keep telling me to make peace. At least I think that is what I hear the stars saying to me." Japheth nodded. "Holy told me, peace between my father and grandfather." "You have talked to my father about this quarrel with his grandfather Lamech?" "Yes, once when he came to visit me, but I didn't really understand what their quarrel is about." "Water," Japheth said firmly. "That is what most quarrels on the oasis are about. Grandfather has the best and deepest wells on the oasis, and he is letting his own gardens and groves go to seed in his old age. But he lets you take all the water you need from his wells, doesn't he? Japheth sighed, then laughed. Oh, Den, the quarrel is so old and stupid I think that both my father and grandfather have forgotten what it is about. They are both stiff-necked and stubborn. Your grandfather, what is he like? I mean, if he's so old, is he able to take proper care of Sandy? Oh, I'm sure he is. Grandfather Lamech is as hospitable as our mother, and kind and gentle. It was he who taught Yaleth and me to listen to the stars and to understand the wind and to love El. He sighed again. Oh, Den, I'm sorry to involve you in our family quarrel. Denny sighed too. He did not reply. He looked up at the brazen sky, behind which were the stars, and they had already involved him. He shivered. Grandfather Lamech and Higgaion began taking Sandy out in the daylight, not into the direct brutal sunlight, but in the shade of the thick grove. Like Denny's, Sandy wore only a loincloth. His underclothes were folded with the rest of his things, in case they were ever needed again. The loinskin, unlike his own clothes, could be scrubbed clean with sand, and eventually discarded and replaced. He liked the freedom of the loinskin, liked the way his own skin had healed, and was slowly turning a rosy tan. Adnarel came by Grandfather Lamech's tent almost every day, and as Sandy grew stronger and more willing to accept that he was not going to wake up in his own bed at home, he grew more aware of his surroundings and of the tender care given him by the ancient little man. "Hey, Grandfather Lamech," he said one morning after breakfast, "now that I'm better, it's time I stopped freeloading." The old man looked at him questioningly. "What's that?" "What can I do to help?" Sandy asked. "I've never done any cooking, but isn't there stuff outdoors I could do to be useful? At home, Denny's and I chop wood and mow the lawn, and we have this huge vegetable garden." At the mention of the garden, Lamech's eyes brightened. "I have a vegetable garden, and lately I have much neglected it. Higgaion helps me with the watering, but I am too old for the long hours of work, and now there are great weeds choking the plants." "Let me at it!" Sandy cried. "Denny's and I are terrific gardeners." Grandfather Lamech's face creased into a broad smile. "Not so fast, my son. The time for work in the garden is in the earliest morning, and just as the sun is setting in the evening." "Oh," the old man laughed. "Truly, you do not want to go out in the garden during the day, or you will be felled by the sun all over again. But as soon as the sun drops behind the palms, I will show you the garden. I thank you, dear my sand. You have been sent to me by El, this I believe." "Hey, it's the least I can do," Sandy protested. In the late afternoon, when the sun's rays were slanted, Lamech and Higgaion led him past a small grove to the garden, which was indeed in need of helping hands. Great weeds of varieties Sandy had never seen before grew higher than many of the vegetables. This was going to be a full-time job. The weeds had deep roots, he discovered as he tried to pull one up. He found a sharp stone and would have started digging had Lamech not stopped him. "You are not ready for such hard work, and it is still hot. Tomorrow morning you can try coming out for an hour." "All right. It'll make me feel at home working in a garden again." Sandy knew that he did not have to win Grandfather Lamech's approval, but he had a deep sense of happiness that he could do something for the old man who had been so kind to him. Despite the profusion of weeds, the garden was lush with more vegetables than he had ever seen before. Too bad there was no way to can or freeze them. "We sun-dry some of these." Lamech pointed to a long row of red ovals on tall leafy stalks, and another of something purple that looked like eggplant but was twice the height of the plants at home. If these people in the desert were smaller than anyone Sandy had ever seen, their plants were larger. "That way," the old man continued, "we could eat them in the winter in soups and stews. I have groves of fruit trees, too, that need pruning and harvesting. Japheth and Oholibama come when they can to help me out, but they have more than enough to do in my son's vineyards. It must have been ordered by the stars that you should come just as I have to accept that I can no longer manage on my own." His face was joyful. Sandy felt bathed in the old man's joy. There was certainly going to be no time for boredom, and if there was plenty to do, there would be less time to worry about getting home. And we'll pause there.